Professionalism is a funny term. Professionalism is a funny term. Is it? Being a professional, in the purest sense, is simply being paid to do something, a professional engagement. The term amateur, which is largely used dismissively these days to suggest a thing is poorly done or is badly executed, actually just denotes that there was no payment for a task. Now, I'd suggest, certainly in the world of art, innovation, and philosophy, that those employed in such pursuits aren't there for anything as crass or vulgar as monetary gain. And in fact, the placing of a financial figure upon their work actually cheapens it. Money can cut the heart out of pleasure and remove all joy from any activity.
The clock reached 150 today. It's a slightly odd milestone, especially as it's moving backwards. I've mostly been worrying about my mum. I think she might have depression. All she seems to do is cry at the moment. It's difficult to watch. She was always the strong person, the kind of person I could go and cry to. But now she's just sad. She's really, really sad. And some of it is my fault. It's pretty obvious. Probably a lot of it. I think I've disappointed her. But what child doesn't disappoint their parents at some point? It's a shame because this disappointment is probably going to stick. Not something which will just blow over. My poor mum. I don't really know what she'll do. Dad's gone. She never really had friends, not any that I noticed at least when I was growing up. She just always seemed to be there for me. I had no brothers and sisters to contend with. I think her being alone is the worst part though. She's not good alone. I left her alone before when I first moved out here. I didn't see her for the best part of the year. I didn't want to. Kids can be such fucking assholes to their parents sometimes.
The hardest job of all. That's what all the stay-at-home mums tell you. A thankless, payless festival of tears, grazed knees and bum wiping. It's quite hard, don't get me wrong. It's tiring looking after kids. And expensive and annoying. But mostly it's boring. Deadly boring. I personally find that after 6 months of maternity leave, I couldn't wait to get back to work and spend time with actual adults. No more Barney the bloody dinosaur or pretending I wanted to play crappy board games. I could talk about politics or telly or even the sudden weather. It was great to feel like a real adult again. I did love the kids. They're annoying, but I love them. There was something very sweet about the way they loved me unconditionally. Even when I was angry and unreasonable with them. Even when I just shouted and shouted at them just for being children. That never made me feel very good about myself. It's not okay to be crap to kids. which is an ironic statement considering what I've done.
I've always found the term a professional person deeply irritating. We all know what it means, someone who's university educated. Someone with a job which is seen as an achievement to have attained. Basically, someone who's earning reasonable money and isn't working class. It's nonsense, though. The guy flipping burgers at McDonald's is a professional. He's certainly not there for any other reason than the meager minimum wage he receives to sweat over a hot grill and get yelled at even when he can't do that right. The girl pouring pints of lager at Wetherspoons is a professional too. Even if no one's asking her to countersign their passport application. Another common distinction is the difference between a job and a vocation, which may go some way to explain the oddly skewed concept or professional that we now have. A vocation is something you do because you want to, and if you get paid for it, well, all the better. A job? That's just giving up those precious hours of your all too short lives in exchange for the financial means of existence. A job is a trade-off. A vocation is a gift. For me, my work is a vocation. It's what I love to do. Really, as far as I can tell, it's what I've always wanted to do. I'm freelance, so I view assignments as jobs with definite fees per transaction. Some jobs are better than others. Some are dull and just a financial exchange. Some, though, are amazing and exciting. And frankly, I do them for free. They're the ones that make this a vocation.
My poor old mum. She flew out here as soon as she found out. She probably maxed out every credit card she owns to pay for a ticket. I still don't know how she's affording to stay out here. I hope she's not bankrupting herself. She never actually asked me to explain. She never directly asked me why. She knew, of course, about Rachel. It was pretty obvious. I knew she didn't approve. She couldn't. It just went too far against the grain for her. That's what made me move out here in the end. Me and Rach pulled all our money together on 2 plane tickets. It was teenage and reckless, and we were so excited. Our own Wild West adventure. Austin wasn't really what we thought it would be, though. You have this image of Texas being this backwards place. Saloons, sand, Stetsons. But Austin was amazing. It was cosmopolitan, cultured, not wild at all, really. And we had fun. We had so much fun. We were too young to buy our own drinks, but we were pretty and British enough to convince almost anyone to buy them for us. We never hid who we were, but no one ever asked. There was one group of guys we started to see more often. Older than us, but not too old. Just men drinking beer, talking shit. We honestly never meant to lead them on. We never did anything apart from smile and show polite interest in their crap stories. I don't think it's ever about leading them on. It's not really about sex at all. Our interest or lack thereof was irrelevant. We shouldn't have left that place. We shouldn't have gotten that car. And knowing what happened, I can't believe we didn't see it coming. But then why the hell would we? We'd been stupid and we knew it. There's a moment when you suddenly realise that a mood has changed. Suddenly you feel the atmosphere. The laughter dies and the smiles lose their warmth. You know where you're going. We tried to shrug it off, but we knew.
Today is the final part of job 49 for me. And that's quite a big number in my line of work. Now, if you are a graphic designer or a gardener or a hairdresser, then 50 jobs wouldn't seem a lot, much less than a year's work. But what I do is more like writing a novel or painting a portrait. It takes time. The planning must be perfect and the execution exact. The stakes in what I do are about as high as possible for something to be. And if one thing goes wrong, then it's game over forever. In fact, 99% of what I do is preparation. The actual act itself is almost instantaneous. You want it to be instantaneous for the sake of everyone involved. Clean, quick, largely painless. Unless, of course, there's a need for pain, but that costs extra. I think the film Neon had it best understood, the quiet diligence of it all. Keeping a low profile and staying out of the limelight is crucial. This is no place for showmanship and egos. So, what of job 49? The request came through a whole 6 months ago with a holding payment and all the details I needed. You get a name, address, photo, plus any specifics of how and when you want it done. Usually it's clean, quick, with as little fuss as possible. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes a message needs to be given, sometimes it needs to be seen by someone specific. All this costs extra though, as the risk is greater. Now, I'm not a sadist in any way. I don't like causing pain and distress, so for me these special requests are the most challenging element of what I do. But you don't want to be known for turning down work or having a weak stomach. Strength and cool-headedness is what everyone is after.
If you're familiar with Euripides' play Medea, then this is all down to my husband being a bastard, buggering off with a younger model and leaving me to be mother to his kids. This isn't like that though. I haven't done what I've done to hurt him or destroy the one thing he held most dear. Which is mainly because he's already dead. Nothing spectacular. Just a heart attack in his sleep, I think. Admittedly, he was quite young. But he smoked and drank and worked too hard. Not uncommon. It was a bit of a shock though, waking up and finding yourself next to a corpse. I actually knew he was dead before I even opened my eyes. I brushed against his arm and it felt cold. Too cold. I just lay there hoping I'd touch something else, or he'd already got out of bed and replaced himself with a selection of meat from the fridge. The kids had come in and I told them, "Daddy's asleep." They did their usual irritating bedbound sit and went off to the TV. I couldn't bring myself to touch him again, so I just got out of bed and made a cup of tea in the kitchen. I made a potful like I always do. I got out 2 cups and I poured both. I thought, if he's alive, he'll want a cup of tea. If he's dead, I'll want 2 cups. Honey, what do you think in these situations?
When they pulled up, we tried to run. There wasn't anywhere to go. We'd been so stupid. The language changed. Those charming southern drawls grew sinister, nasty. Words that hadn't been said all evening started to flow. It was happening and we couldn't do a thing. I'd like to say we fought. I'd like to say we got out, but we didn't. We failed. I failed. There was nothing to do but let them. Hope they'd be quick. I remember thinking, what were they going to do afterwards? I was just lying there, staring at the ceiling, thinking, what are they going to do next? It was over within less than half an hour. It's amazing how men can change once their bollocks are empty. It just left us. They fled like fucking schoolboys. It was only then that we really cried. We just lay there and cried, and we didn't move until the sun rose and the building filled with light and heat. And I wished it had just been me. We didn't tell anyone. Who are we going to tell? The police? Two stupid English girls telling tales about the local lads, having a bit of fun. I don't think we could have said it if we wanted to anyway. It was Rach that pushed me over the edge. They'd destroyed her. She showed all signs of life, but she'd just gone, disintegrated in front of me. I knew she wouldn't last long, and she didn't. The cable from the Hoover. I didn't even tell the police when they came to take her away. I just said she seems a bit down. They tried sympathy, not that I noticed. I didn't even really hear them.
I did once have a job where they had a very clear and very stark message of what they wanted conveyed. I think it was job 28. I remember them all. Their personal interactions with another human being. You're basically in a relationship, but one which the other person has no knowledge of until seconds before it ends. It's a strange sort of thing. But job 28 was a special one. The person, the man in this case, must have done something to really upset the client. The instructions given were very detailed, like something I'd give a small child to make sure they did a task exactly right. There was no emotion in the instructions, but they were clearly emotionally driven. The actions requested were difficult to stomach, even for me. It was slow, messy, loud, even with the gaffer tape and the cable ties. I usually aim for a target to either not see me at all or if only for a split second, but this man saw me for a long time. Hours and hours. The idea was that it would take as long as possible, following a specific sequence of actions that would draw out the target's agony and his eventual demise. Doing something like that takes a lot of energy, a lot of stamina. It also starts to mess with your head. It's been suggested by a whole host of respected academics and psychologists that those who historically worked in the corporal and capital punishment system would in all likelihood have been found to have some serious mental issues if examined by modern doctors. Hangmen, headsmen, disembowelers, all would have started to lose their marbles after a while, and I can see why. It's one thing pulling a trigger or slitting a throat. It's quite another being elbow deep in a person that's still very much alive, extracting vital organs while they scream and writhe around. Something like that stays in your mind, in your dreams. I like to think I'm fairly sane. Obviously, there's something wrong with me to consider doing this for a living. But I'm not convinced it's full-scale psychosis. I'm calculated and cold. But so are the people who closed down factories or cut healthcare budgets. Not to mention those brave men and women massacring thousands in the name of patriotism. I doubt I'm any more unhinged than the rest of them, probably just more honest. Job 28 did get under my skin, though. There's something about looking into a person's eyes and seeing what you're doing to them hurts. It's excruciatingly painful. And they'd rather you ended their life right there than carry on any longer.
I've done a bit of research. Texas is not a forgiving state, especially with my notoriety. Once you've hit 18, you're dealt with like everyone else. It was a simple plan in the end. I like to think it was intelligently conceived, but it was easy. Drinking men drink. A hired car, a hooded jacket and a hip flask are easy things to acquire. The offer of a lift to some drunken pissheads even easier. No one was checking taxi numbers. And they were so drunk when they got in the car that I almost didn't need the bourbon laced with sedative. Almost. Dragging them from the car was the hardest part. I'd never been strong and these guys were big. Adrenaline can make you do incredible things though. And I worried I wouldn't have enough time to prepare everything before they awoke. But in the end it was me waiting for them. They were confused. Thought it was a prank, I think. Something one of their buddies had come up with. But I wasn't their buddy. I remember being told how soldiers can be conditioned to hate their enemy, to dehumanise the individual so that they could kill them. I never really understood it. How normal people committed atrocities, acted so barbaric. How could you do that to someone you'd never met? Well, we had met. We were intimately acquainted. I noted their recognition, shortly followed by understanding. They knew me and why I was there. It would be fair to say their reactions were mixed. Some of them shouted, some of them pleaded, begged. Didn't matter though. In the end, they were all screaming. There's not really any advice out there about how to go about this kind of thing. I guess a butcher's handbook would be the most use. The first went quicker than the last, but in the end, the result was the same. Paring knife, vegetable knife, cleaver, scissors, chop chop, snip snip. In the end, I didn't try to run. I even rang 911. I'd done the thing I needed to. Poor Mum. It was a shock for her, though. I think it made the UK news.
When I entered the room again, I realised I hadn't actually looked at him yet. His eyes were closed, but he was pale. I've been told before that dead people really do look dead, not like they're sleeping at all. And it's true. There's no mistaking it. I sat on the edge of the bed and I drank both cups of tea. I had to touch him sometime, I knew, so I went for the armpit in the end. It's a strange place to choose, I'll grant you. But my thinking was it would be one of the last places to stay warm so I could see how dead he really was. See, I've always seen death as a two-stage thing. Stage 1 is where your heart stops, and stage 2 is where your brain is dead. He still had some warmth, and maybe stage 2 hadn't completely finished yet. The armpit was cold. All signs of life had gone. I sat there for a really long time. I even considered reading a chapter of my book. I just had no idea what I was going to do. At that moment, I was the only one who knew. As far as the world was concerned, absolutely nothing had changed. It was Saturday, so none of his work colleagues would have missed him yet. No one had rung to speak to him, and even the light on his phone that said he got a text message wasn't flashing. Literally, no one had a clue he'd ceased to exist. So I decided to keep it that way. At least for me. I decided I couldn't deal with the shocked faces, the he's in a better place now analogies, the popping round to see if I was okay. I just wasn't doing it. Now that's obviously easier said than done. Come Monday morning, his work colleagues would start calling up and asking questions. His mum usually rang on Sundays just to see how everyone was. And to be honest, the kids would know just as soon as they got bored of whatever shite they were watching, which meant that keeping it quiet was going to last all of about an hour at the most. So I ran a bath. I filled it with bubbles. And I got out all the kids' toys. We don't usually bathe them on Saturday mornings, but we've always been pretty poor at keeping a set schedule on these things, so they didn't ask any questions. They're still just small enough to fit in the bath together. But it always leads to fighting and arguments. So I washed the hair and just sat and watched them as they played. The eldest one thinks it's really funny to make a beard out of bubbles. And the youngest one always laughs when he does this. Medea syndrome is generally regarded as the phenomenon of a female parent killing her children as a means of exacting revenge on her spouse. There are loads of reported cases, and people have written countless academic papers and PhD theses on the subject. I didn't kill mine out of fucking revenge, though. I killed them to save them from the grief, from the moment of knowing their father had gone and would never hold them again. I killed them to protect their childhood innocence. They'd never grow up and see the cruelty of the world. I killed them out of motherly kindness.
"150 days. That's just less than 5 months. It's not an easily divisible fraction of a year. 5/12, maybe? At least when it gets to 4 months, I'll be able to say there's a third of the year left. Apparently it's a humane process, which is actually the most obscene part. The clinical gentility of it all, as if I'm off to give blood and there'll be tea and a biscuit at the end. I don't know if Mum will come in. I think she is allowed to. I'll understand if she doesn't. No one wants to see the light go up the pair of eyes they brought into the world, even if those eyes have seen what these have. I worry about my mum.
Now, humans have an enormous instinct for survival. They'll crawl over broken glass, walk through fire, even sever their own limbs if they think there's a chance of life. But when you've removed all hope that they'll carry on, snuffed out the very idea that they'll exist beyond that day, when I'd rather death came then and hold off any longer, that's when you've truly lost your humanity. I pay a heavy price for my professionalism sometimes.
There's a poem by Seamus Heaney, the Nobel Prize-winning poet, called The Early Purges. In it, he describes 6 years old. I remember a line that goes, "Sure, isn't it better for them now?" For a moment of terror, they get an eternity of peace. I think it's better for my babies now. They were harder to hold down than kittens. Particularly both at the same time. But adult strength prevailed in the end. The house feels quiet. The kids are still in the bath. My husband's still in bed. I've set up a rope in the hallway. I was just tidying up before I use it. Looks like it's going to be a lovely sunny day outside. Perfect for a walk and a picnic. But we're all staying in today.
The jobs that followed 28-8 were easy and distant in comparison. I couldn't even tell you the eye colour of most subjects. Sometimes it's like job 28 didn't even happen. Like I never looked into those eyes. But it's the eyes that get you in the end.